I act in a short period. I dream in the distance.
Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast, a Ben Kinney training production, where we talk about the concepts of health, wealth, leadership, and legacy. My name is Chad Hyams, and I am joined by my friend Bob Stewart. Bob, what's our word for today?
Chad, today's word is first.
Say that one again?
First.
Excellent. You'll all understand a little better about that as we get into this, and Bob tells us a little bit about it. We had a conversation with Ben about his priority sheets, these forms that he uses, and you've decided to use the word first. Bob, tell us a little bit more about what we should be listening for.
Well, as we get into the conversation, Chad, you said something interesting when we were kind of prepping for this. You said we're going to talk about priority, not priorities.
Right.
We're going to talk about what's that one thing, that priority. And Ben does a really good job inside of this discussion of giving you a look into our world in terms of how we accomplish a lot. I feel like, we have a pretty small organization. Ben specifically has built a really big world. And this conversation today is really a key that unlocks a lot of how he's been able to do what he does.
Yeah, I was really excited to hear Ben say something during this conversation, and it'll be pretty obvious when that part comes up, because it was something that I thought I was walking alone. So I'm not going to say any more about that. Listen for these first assists that Bob's talking about, and join us in this conversation with Ben about priority. I want to quote a friend of mine who says, "Leaders work from a clear sense of priority." Now, Ben, you might recognize that quote because it's you I'm actually quoting. You've said this many times to many people. Tell me a little bit more about that quote, what it means.
I don't know where I got it, Chad. I probably stole it from somebody. But it's how you do more than one thing successfully. It's how you run more than one thing. It's how you grow a big business. It's how you actually accomplish things, is when you understand priority is not plural. Even though we have the word priorities, we've never heard the word first assists. There is no two first assists places in the race. There's only one first, right? We have to understand there's no first assists, right? What we're looking for is, what do we do first? What's the most important thing that we could go get done today? In the words of Jay Papasan, right? What's the one thing that if I focused on would make everything else in my life easier or unnecessary? That was their focusing question. Priorities are what set leaders apart.
Okay, now priorities can fall into all areas of what Win, Make, Give is covering. That is our health, our wealth, our leadership, our legacy. It's covering our relationships, our parenting, all of these things that fit in all of those categories you're talking about. So we're not talking about any specific area, yet when it comes to priorities, we have to be able to control our time, correct?
Yeah, that's what leaders do. That's your primary job, Chad, is to control and manage your time so that you work on the right things in the right order.
Okay, so if we have to learn to control our time, where does that start?
Well, number one, you got to have monthly priorities, monthly goals, and deliverables, things that you're trying to accomplish at the end of this month. That's looking out in the distance. I don't plan a year or 2 years in advance, right?
Whoa. Time out. You don't plan a year or 2 years out in advance?
No. That's a dream, right? That I act in a short period. I dream in the distance.
Okay, I think I just got my aha already, because everyone's always talking about we have to have this 5-year plan. We have to know where we're going down the road. You're telling me, and this is the first time I'm actually hearing this from you, you don't have long-term plans, you just have dreams.
How many times have you made a plan for something and a year later everything's changed and you aren't doing it at all?
Any time I've ever made a plan for something.
Right? Things change.
Sure.
How much time do we waste planning and thinking and doing things based on an outcome that never happens?
So you're planning monthly. Really, your plans are monthly plans that hopefully lead you towards this dream, yet you're ready to pivot as needed on that dream as changes happen.
Yeah. Dream big. Right. Act small.
Act small.
I've heard you explain this as like, well, the last time I heard this, we were in a room and you were like, look, walk out there, right? Like, do you know what you're going to do next? Are you going to take a right? And then what's that going to look like down the hall? And then when you walk through that door, which way are you going to go? These things change, right? Like your plan changes. And so like you said, you get there a year later and that thing you thought was 5 years out, all of a sudden it's 6 months out, or it's 10 years out, or it's not even in your, in your wheelhouse anymore, right?
Yeah.
You don't even care.
What should I invest in today? Well, it'll be based on what you have available today as resources, time, energy, and knowledge, right? Well, what should you invest in 5 years? I don't know. I don't know what your resources are going to be. I don't know how much time you're going to have. I don't know what your knowledge is going to be. Why waste all that time thinking and dreaming about something that never comes? So what we know is that leaders have monthly goals and monthly deliverables, monthly priorities.
Tell me about deliverables. What are you meaning when you use the term deliverables in this case?
I like to have tangible things that I know will improve the business every single month. So somebody might say, I would really like to open a restaurant. And they never
sell
open
cheeseburgers, Bob.
Yeah, they never open the restaurant because they never create a menu. But what if I said, in order to open a restaurant, you have to make one amazing recipe by the end of the month? They would probably come up with one amazing dish, right? They have a whole month to do it.
Sure.
Now, at the end of that month, I'd say, let's come up with another one. And we do that for 3 months. And then I'd probably say, let's come up with an appetizer. We do that for 3 months. Let's come up with a dessert. We'll do that for 3 months. Let's think about how it's going to be delivered, right? And you wake up in a year and you have a restaurant when everybody else around you doesn't, because they're still stuck on what the menu is going to be. Come up with chunks. And the way you do that is that you work on weekly priorities that add up to your monthly goals.
So you take that monthly goal of that one recipe in this example, and now you're breaking that down to weekly priorities of figuring out this seasoning or figuring out this topping or figuring out whatever it is that's going to add up to at the end of the month, you're done with that.
Yeah, week one is probably going to be, what type of a recipe is it going to be? Well, it's going to be pasta, right? That's awesome. Great. Week two is going to be, what are the ingredients and where am I going to get them? Week three is going to be the seasonings and the salts and the accoutrements. Ooh, big word. Jay would be proud of me. And week four is going to be, what is it going to look like and how is it going to be presented? And when you add all of your weekly priorities up, you look up and you're like, I did it. I got one thing done. You've delivered on one thing that moves you a step closer to that goal.
Okay. Now you gave me weekly priorities in there. I have to break that down one more step though.
Yeah, because you don't ever accomplish weekly things without prioritizing your day. So the last step is, how do you come up with a list of daily priorities that would allow you to be on track for that weekly goal or that weekly priority list? And making sure that you have time in your day to do that. When you do that, you wake up and you say, as long as I continue to show up on my daily priorities, my weekly priorities are being done, and all of a sudden now the month is a guaranteed win. Now, what gets in the way of these priorities?
Other people?
Yeah, and what do we say to other people?
Well, we understand that every yes has the no that comes along with it. You talk about that a lot.
Every yes has a corresponding no.
Right.
So why do we not accomplish our priorities, Bob?
We say yes too much.
We work on everybody else's priorities instead of ours, right? Why am I not successful in getting my things done every day? Because you work on everybody else's things.
Where's the balance in that, Ben? Let's talk about that. I mean, I'm married, so my wife has things that become a priority to me, whether I want them to be or not sometimes. And then sometimes I choose them to be priorities for the sake of my marriage. Then there's also the priorities I have to the restaurant that I want to open, that I want to create for future opportunities. Then I have my kids, then I have my friends, then I have my health. How do I figure out how all of this can balance itself so I'm choosing the right priorities?
Yeah, you're going to have to learn to say no and be careful what you say yes to. When I first started my business, what it was from 8 a.m. to about 6 p.m., I had to make money. I had to go out there and find deals to do so that I could pay the mortgage. And then at that point, I had an important person in my life, and I would go home, and from 6 to 8 or 6 to 9, I'd have dinner, hang out, watch a movie, cuddle, whatever those sort of things were, right? But from 9 o'clock on, that person would go to bed, And I would spend from 9 o'clock till midnight, or 9 o'clock till 2, or 9 o'clock till 3, or sometimes 9 o'clock the whole night working on my long-term goal of starting my business or growing my business. I was making websites. I was doing search engine optimization. I was writing scripts and marketing plans and presentations, and I was doing all that. And I had to say no to sleep in order to say yes to that, because during the day, I had to focus on that priority. And from 6 to 9, if I wanted that relationship, I had to make time for that, right? Are you willing to make sacrifices? But during the day, you run into the same problem. There's so many things that have to get done. How do you clearly choose what do you do and what you don't do? It's simple, actually. You create a list of what's most important. You number it from 1 to 3 or 1 to 10 or however many you have, and you don't do number 2 until number 1's done.
Say that again, Ben.
You don't do number 2 until number 1's done.
And number 1's the most important priority.
Yeah.
Just get that straight.
When people come home and they've done number 4, number 5, they basically said, I like to work on the things that are easy or fun instead of the things that move the bus forward.
Right. They start at the bottom and check off their way towards the top and high-five themselves for not finishing the list yet getting a bunch of things done.
And then what they say is but there were fires today. Of course there were. There's always fires.
Every day.
There are 37 fires currently in the house. Do you pick the small one, or do you pick the big one that's going to burn the house down and take the family with it?
I'd probably just run.
You pick the biggest fire. You put that out, and then you move to the next biggest fire, and then you move to the next biggest fire until you wake up one day and they're all gone. But if you start with the smallest fire, you're going to wake up and the whole house is going to be gone. That makes sense?
Sure does.
Clear priorities for you and for your business makes everyone accountable. It makes everyone productive. It makes everyone more successful. Don't we really want that at the end of the day? We want to be more productive. We want to be more successful. We don't really want to be more accountable. We don't like using that word, but actually we do. We actually do want to be more of that.
Okay.
So in order to be more successful in priorities, we have a system.
Of course.
Of course. And it's simple. And you can get our system for free
At the winmakegive.com website where all our resources are.
Yeah. And you can download our priority sheets.
Okay.
And this isn't rocket science. You're not going to be blown away. They aren't even beautifully designed. What these are a daily priority sheet, a weekly priority sheet, and a monthly priority sheet.
Whoa.
Whoa.
Whoa. That's a lot of hard work thinking there.
At the top, it has the time frame, and it has a spot for supervisors. What I ask my people to do is I ask them to turn in at the very first day of the month what the monthly priorities are that we're going to get accomplished for every department. And then every week, my employees turn into their boss what the weekly priorities are. And at the top of the priority sheet, the supervisor signs off that they reviewed it and that they're agreeing that those priorities are the right priorities and those priorities are in the right order. Now, if I review them on a regular basis, I say, hey, David or Bob or Grant or somebody, give me a list of all of your priority sheets for your people, and none of them are ever crossed out or reorganized, I understand they're not reviewing it and they're not forcing their people to change priorities based on what the company's goals are, the company's priorities for the month are. Because really it should be a conversation. And that's why I created the sheet, is I wanted to force Bob and I to have a conversation about what's most important. In fact, we had a 2-hour or 3-hour meeting today about companies' priorities in one of our companies, right? And we broke it down to what are the things that we needed to do. And at the end of the day, these are the things we want to get accomplished this month. True, Bob?
Yeah, true. And we didn't go much past the month. Yeah, true.
What can we get done right away? And it was a debate. A whole bunch of people said, we want this. And other people said, we want this. And we talked about it. Well, what's realistic? What could we actually get done? What would have the biggest impact? In fact, you guys did a graph on the wall where you said things that are in a different matrix between what?
High impact, low impact for our customers, and high or low effort for our team, basically.
Yeah. What are the things that we could do that would be a high impact to our customers and low effort for us? Yeah. Those are things we can get done right away, right? What are the things that we could do that would be low effort and low impact to our customers? Why would we do anything that was a low impact, right? We want to work on things that are high impact, low effort, and then we want to work on things that are high impact,
Medium effort, and
medium
high
effort.
impact, high effort.
That's working from a clear sense of priority. The priority sheets that we're going to give you will force you to run your organization with a clear sense of priority. It'll force you and your employees to have conversations about what's most important. You'll wake up one day and your employees, when you walk up and you try to dump another pet project on them, they're going to look up and say, all right, that's awesome. Thank you. This is a good idea. However, is this more important than these other 3 things that I have on my list? And half the time I look down and I say, nope, carry on. And I take that project and I walk away. And we created a culture in our company of using the word priority. And Bob, you saw the transition. People started saying, is that my biggest priority? Is that my number one priority? Is that a bigger priority than this, right? Where does that fit on my priority sheet?
We've talked in past episodes, Ben, about you being somebody that you don't have a lot of patience, but you're always coming in and like throwing ideas around. And I think from the rest of the organization's perspective, having a leader that's always got a lot of great ideas is really cool, except for sometimes you don't know which ones to take and run with, or wait, was that just a suggestion, or we're actually supposed to go do that? And having our sense of priorities, when you come in and do that now, it's really easy for the organization to say, hold on, is that more important than this? Right. And so as the leader, you can't come in and like kind of, use the phrase like poop in everybody's kitchen, but run through there and go, hey, and create chaos, because people are working from a sense of priority.
It creates self-regulation for your organization. One of the emotional intelligence, right, elements, right? Yeah. It regulates our impulsive entrepreneurial tendencies and allows you and your company to work from a clear sense of priority. So I challenge you guys, audience, listeners, friends, Bob and Chad, work from a clear sense of priority. Download the priority sheets, try it for a day, try it for a month, and come back and tell us, has it made an impact in your business or your life?
Are you willing to make the same guarantee you have on other things and tools we've given them?
I guarantee you that if you listen to this, Bob, right, and it doesn't change your life, what are we going to do?
Triple your money back. It's amazing.
You're going to get 300 times the amount of money you spent on this podcast, guaranteed.
Amazing. We just went from triple to 300 times.
We don't do math.
We don't do math on this podcast. So, Ben, thanks for sharing the priority list, and we look forward to hearing what's next. Okay, Bob, that was a great conversation with Ben, talking about priority, clearing up that first issue that you brought up at the top of our call today. Share with everybody your aha from this one.
I'll tell you what. So normally you come to me, but you have this big grin on your face because he said something and you told people to listen for it and you like stopped him in his tracks. You share your aha with me because you're just grinning ear to ear. I can't take it.
Bob, it's just amazing. Everybody's always told to have these huge long-term plans and work back from them. Where are you going to be in 10 years from now? Or where are you going to be 5 years from now? Heck, you can't even ask Ben, where are you going to be 1 year from now, from what he's talked on that. And it is just mind-blowing how many people stress I got to plan 5 years away. How many people stress, I got to plan 10 years away. Now, maybe you want to save for something. Ben's talked to us about making those investments, things like that, Bob. He's not necessarily saying, oh, I'm going to have the investment in 5 years. He's saying I'm going to put X amount of money into that investment bucket that we talk about on other calls.
Even that's monthly, though.
Correct. And when it adds up, then he says, hey, look what I've got. Yet who knows what's going to happen a month from now, 3 months from now, 6 months from now, that he's not bothering to plan that far out. And that is just mind-blowing, because I'm betting almost everybody listening that knows Ben would have been sure he had a long-term plan he was working towards.
It's interesting. I've had to have this conversation with people because I know that we have goals maybe that we want to set. Ben called them dreams, right? Like 3 years out is just a dream of what you want to accomplish. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's a dirty little secret that's now out of the bag that we don't have these long, crazy plans. We don't spend a ton of time because, like he says in there, like, you spend 3 years and then all of a sudden, like, some crazy health scare like changes the U.S. economy in a month, right? And like all of a sudden, all that planning you did is for naught. Then it was just wasted effort and energy. So.
You're right. It's just amazing to hear it. I thought I was one of the only people who, when people would ask what my long-term plan was, I didn't have an answer because I just knew So many things can change that why bother wasting that energy? And then to have Ben actually share it, it's something we had never talked about before in that situation. And yet he has dreams of what he wants to accomplish. He's just not laying out the roadmap to make them happen. He just knows they're all leading that way.
I always whenever I hear something, and look, I didn't hear that and think, I don't know about that. But whenever I hear something where I do think that, I don't know about that, I always kind of look to the results, right? I'm like, yeah, it doesn't really seem right. Well, what are the results? And for him, like, if you're somebody on, listening to this and you're going, yeah, I don't know, I got to have a 3 or 5 year, look at his results. I mean, look what he's done. Look what we've built, right? So, yeah, I mean, I was a little bit surprised to hear him say that, right? Because I knew that, but yeah, I mean, that's the reality of being here. There's not a plan for 3 or 5 years from now, right? There's some dreams and things we want to accomplish and some big overarching, but we don't know exactly how we're going to get there. So why waste that time to map it all out and stress over when, this little turn goes wrong or that didn't go to plan, right? We just roll with the punches. We just adjust, adapt, and we know kind of out there's something we want to accomplish, but we don't necessarily know how we're going to get there.
It allows you to pivot quicker when you don't have a plan that you're stuck on.
Yeah.
Focus on the things in front of you, which is what Ben does a very good job of, tackling, crushing that thing in front of him, which then opens up more doors and more opportunities. So have the dream. You don't need to have the step-by-step plan. That's fantastic. And if you want these priority sheets that Ben has that he talked about, they're not that pretty, trust me. Yet if you want them to work from, you can visit winmakegive.com, click on the resources tab, and they'll be there for you to download. You can also get access to the podcast at winmakegive.com. And remember, wherever you are listening to podcasts, please make sure you subscribe so you catch all of the episodes we have coming. Until then, get out there and remember, do good.